There's a really cool project being designed in Manchester, Connecticut right now on their main street. It's going to be a complete streets project, making it accessible for people using any mode of transportation to get around downtown. Let's take a look at it. First, let's check out what Main Street looks like today. Right now, it is a 4-lane road with parking on both sides. A lot of the parking is this front-in angle parking, sometimes it's parallel parking. And all along the east side, we have these continuous storefronts, some nice medium density going on. But overall, looking at the full width of the street here, from building to building, the overwhelming majority of it is for either storing or moving cars, with pedestrians kind of pushed to the fringes of Main Street. Now, Main Street Manchester is a really popular place to be, but the amount of space handed over to cars is really limiting how successful this street can be. In recent years, there have been hundreds of crashes, many with injuries, one fatality. It's not really safe to bike anywhere on this street, and pedestrian activity is having to spill over into parking areas for things like outdoor dining because there's just not enough room for people to spread out. Also, the prevalence of angle parking in downtown takes up a lot of valuable space in the street's cross-section. Here you can see angle parking is 18 feet wide, whereas parallel parking spaces are only about 8 to 9 feet. The town has come up with a proposed design that we'll look at that, to be honest, still allocates a massive amount of space to moving and storing cars, but definitely makes improvements for complete streets principles for pedestrians, bikes, and transit users. Here's the concept plan. So at either end of Main Street, they're going to have these proposed roundabouts replacing existing signalized intersections. And as we move further down Main Street, we can see kind of what the typical section is going to look like. So instead of having 4 lanes of traffic like it is now, it's going to be 1 travel lane each direction with left turn lanes in the middle, or this mountable median in case emergency vehicles need to get through. The other thing they're doing is converting some of the existing angle parking into parallel parking spaces. So the change in the parking and the road diet frees up enough room to build this protected 2-way cycle track and expand some of the pedestrian areas. In addition to the reconfiguration of the lanes, there's also going to be some other improvements like pedestrian bump outs at intersections to shorten the crosswalk distance, some signal changes, and a lot more green space throughout the downtown area. And down at the southern end of the project, we have one more roundabout to close it out. And one of my favorite parts is the protected cycle track connecting into the Charter Oak Greenway, which is this nice multi-use path through multiple different towns in the area. Here's where it will hook into Main Street Manchester and connect people to all these different places. With any type of complete streets project, especially in the United States, unfortunately there will always be some kind of opposition group that forms. And so in Manchester, there's a Facebook group called Save Downtown Manchester, whose goal is to preserve Main Street exactly the way it is because they think it's fine. They don't think anything of the hundreds of crashes and the lack of pedestrian space. They think everything's fine. When you only view your town from behind the windshield of a car, it's very hard to imagine what changes could look like for your street. And so your natural reaction is to just oppose anything and try to keep everything exactly the same. One of the creators of the Facebook group actually created this 60-slide PowerPoint presentation and held their own public meeting. It's just full of misinformation and fear-mongering. I think this slide pretty much sums it up. This is also a main street, but it's in Concord, New Hampshire. Look how similar it is to Manchester's current Main Street, a 4-lane roadway with angle parking on both sides of the street. Except what Concord did is they changed their Main Street. They did a road diet with 1 lane each direction, a mountable median down the center, and conversion of some angle parking into parallel parking to free up space. Aside from not having bike lanes, this is identical to what Manchester wants to do with its Main Street. And just like in Manchester, there was opposition in Concord, especially from business owners on Main Street who were saying this project is going to destroy downtown, there's going to be traffic, people won't be able to find parking. And exactly the opposite is happening. This project went in, and some of the business owners that were initially against the project are now saying, you know what, it's actually not that bad. Downtown is thriving now. These changes are welcome. We should have done it earlier. And so we're seeing the exact same thing play out in Manchester, just at a much earlier stage. The Downtown Manchester project is proposing some common sense, proven engineering solutions that make safer and more livable places, and I'm really excited to see this project move forward and all the naysayers proved wrong.